Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Jacquelyn Berney, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Jacquelyn Berney here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating and intriguing woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Gertrude. My name is Jacquelyn Berney. I am based in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I am the president of a behavior change marketing firm here. It's called VI Marketing and Branding. So a little bit about me is that I grew up in a broken home. My father lived many hours from us, so I got to see him about one time a year. And my mom, who was a very hard worker and has been a huge rock, my foundation in life, decided when I was in second grade to move me from a public school and a Montessori that I had gone to a private parochial school. And I think that it shaped who I am as a person today, because many of the people that I met in second grade are still my friends since I've lived in Oklahoma City my entire life. So we grew up with not a lot. My mom, my father's actually 20 years older than my mom. And so she was doing everything that she could to put food on the table and a roof over our head. We actually moved quite a bit as a result because there just never seemed to be enough money to pay the rent or get the food and the utilities paid for. But she made a lot of sacrifices to make sure that my sister and I had a really good education and a solid community in the church that we were at. I started in high school working, and I had to work to put myself through school from the time I was 14 years old until, I graduated finally from college in 2006. Actually, I guess it was 2004. I just did a little bit of continuing education after that. And I had worked in retail, and I had worked in the quick service industry, and I had worked in telemarketing when I was going to school. And fate brought me to VI Marketing and Branding. It was called Visual Image at the time. That was 2000. And I applied for a temp job that I decided was a really good place for me. And so I decided, rather than leaving after I was here for a few months, I applied to be a permanent fixture, and I finished in night school. And I actually had another job while I was in school and doing this full time. I was working at a clothing store so that I would have the right, business clothing to wear at school. I graduated with a degree in marketing and communications. At the time, it was called integrated marketing and communications. And I was given the opportunity to continue working at VI, but everyone thought that I would sort of want to go into client service and working with clients on a day-to-day basis. And there was something about the honeymoon phase of new business pitching that I loved. And so I asked if I could do that full time, and the agency created a position for me. I was our very first new business person. And I did that for many years, sort of working my way up and also taking on more responsibility than I was really given authority to do, which I think led me to continuing to get different job titles and to have more and more responsibility. I left for a few years when I married my husband, and I came back because, well, he begged me to, but also I came back because I wanted to create a place that people truly enjoy working at. I think that COVID taught us a lot about the freedom to make choices about how we spend our time, and it created sort of a global economy, if you will, where anyone could work anywhere they wanted to and have the kind of job that they wanted to. And my husband owned this agency, and I said to myself, if I don't want to work there, why should anyone else want to? And so I've been back for 3 years. In that time, we have had record breaking client service income. We've had record breaking uh, just employee satisfaction, client satisfaction. And I attribute much of that to the work that we're doing to create an environment that is equitable and that there's parity across the board, no matter what department you're in, no matter what race you are, what sex you are, what sexual orientation you have. It is very important to me that humans feel that they're valued. And we're trying to make sure that our people want to come to work every single day. I am someone who is committed to lifelong learning. And I also am a very resilient person. And so I feel like all of the adversity that I face, that people sort of have a choice to either rise to the occasion and find solutions to the problems that they are faced with, or they can kind of succumb to them. And I feel like that's what makes me a great leader right now, is that I always want to help people sort of see where they see themselves next, and then create strategies and tactics that help them get there. And frankly, sometimes that means that VI isn't the place where they can have their best life. And so I want to create a place where if they feel like they do need to leave, that they know that they're always welcome to come back. My favorite employees are the boomerang ones, because if you leave and you want to come back, that tells me a lot about the culture that we have. I feel a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm not a mom. I wanted to have children, and unfortunately, after some time of really trying, I was unable to do so. And so I have been doing a lot of work to find what my purpose in life is. And ultimately, I realized that if I view all of the people that I'm working with as part of my legacy, that it gives me everlasting life, if you will, on this planet, with or without offspring. And so it was a really powerful way for me to sort of reframe this thing that I felt like was going to crush me, because I really, really, really wanted to have children. Is now I'm pouring that same sort of effort into making sure that people have the life that they want, and that they're doing everything that they can to achieve their hopes and dreams. I know that sometimes I make the wrong decisions, and I hope that people see that I'm a human and I'm fallible, and that's going to happen from time to time. And so I'm committed to learning constantly, but also when I fail, trying to learn the lessons that make me that much better at the next decision that I have to make. From a personal point of view, I have actually been seeing a psychologist for a really long time. I was divorced in 2013, and I really saw my life going very differently. And I learned so much about myself in that process, because I realized that even then I had the choice of sort of laying down and crying and I don't know, suffering. And I instead, that first weekend I did that, I laid in bed and I was devastated. And instead, I chose to have a really good relationship with my ex husband, and to sort of create like a task list. I love task lists because I am someone who loves instant gratification, and so checking the box for me is always so fun. And so I made a list of all the things that I needed to do in the next, 6 weeks in order to make sure that I wasn't going to be devastated permanently. And it's funny because I look back now and that was the first time that I was able to buy a home by myself, which I never even dreamt of as a young person. I did landscaping at my house. I was able to design it and hire contractors. And so it was just this amazing feeling of, from like ashes, I was sort of reborn. And now I take that into sort of everything that I do, because I feel like the lesson there was that I can truly do anything. It's funny because I always tell people, Gertrude, that if ever we were to find ourselves, you and I, on a desert island, I truly think that I would be able to figure out how to keep us alive, because I would keep reading things or studying things or whatever, and then we would be okay. If I had to perform surgery on you, I'd figure it out. So you're safe in my hands if ever I come to visit you and we decide to travel somewhere together.
Oh man, I'm telling you, just listening to your story, it's incredible how we come from two completely different backgrounds, two completely different parts of the world, but our stories are so similar. And this is what excites me about this podcast. I get to meet women who have walked my journey in a completely different location. Um, wow. I just feel really honored that you responded and you came on the show. So let's unpack your story. Growing up with limited resources, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned that still guide you today?
That's a really good question. So I am definitely, and I'm not a hoarder by any means. I do things with respect, but I have a very difficult time parting with things, because
Yeah,
I feel like once you pay money for something, that you should sort of treasure it always.
right.
I also believe in having savings and investing money, so that should I find myself in a difficult situation, that I will be okay and safe.
That's just awesome. Now, you mentioned that at one point you walked away from your company but later returned.
Mhm.
What led to that decision and what did you learn from it?
So our CEO is actually my husband now. We met in 2000, so 25 years ago. And in 2015, we both found ourselves sort of on the other side of divorce. And it was really interesting because we became good friends. I was always very intimidated by him. We worked side by side, but I never thought of him in that way.
Mm,
And all of a sudden, I felt so much compassion for him, and it really made him feel more human to me. And so we just sort of became like running buddies. If there was some sort of function or something, it was like, hey, we knew that we would probably be by ourselves. Do you want to hang out, or do you want to ride together? And once we sort of fell in love and decided that we probably would get married, it became obvious to me that it was probably time for me to step away. And so we got engaged in July of 2019, just before the pandemic, and
right.
married just a couple months later. And that was when we both decided it was time for me to leave for
Mhm.
then. And I went out and did the same thing sort of on my own, which
Okay.
was horrible timing,
I
because
can imagine the
then
middle of a
COVID hits and it's
pandemic.
like, what are you thinking, But I
Mm,
survived.
that's awesome. Now, you strongly believe that life is too short not to love your job. How did you discover your passion? And what advice would you give to others who are searching for fulfilling careers?
Um, how did I discover my passion? So it's interesting. I have been working with professional coaches for a while, and one of the things that they talk about is purpose. I always loved, so actually, I thought I was going to be an architect. I loved architecture,
Okay.
and architecture school is hard, and it's, let's say, 10 times harder when you have limited funds because the supplies, and I was living off campus and needing a car to get back and forth. It just became obvious to me that this wasn't going to be what I did for life or longer. And so
Mhm.
when I started doing marketing and I realized that I can help businesses, but there's a creative aspect to doing so, I
Mhm.
absolutely loved it. And then working with people to help them find their own passion has been my life's joy. I love what I do now.
That is just awesome. So, what inspired you to create a workplace where people feel valued and inspired? And how do you cultivate that culture?
Well, it's actually, one of those things where I think sometimes when you don't feel that way, y- I'm trying to think of the phrase that, the mother of invention is when there isn't something. And I
Yeah.
realized that a lot of times where people find passion at their work, it doesn't have to do with money. And so I have been working to help people find not only what they're good at, but what they're aspiring to do. And
Mhm.
then we also, many years ago, created a list of core values that are meant to reflect what we thought the best of our employees were.
Mhm.
And one of those is honor, and the other, there's six of them, but honor and respect are so important to me. And I think that if you don't feel included or that you're part of the group, it's hard to feel honored or respected. So I feel by working daily on making people feel like they have a voice, a seat at the table, not only that they're valued financially, but as a human too, and that we care about them. For instance, right after this, we're going to have a baby shower for one of our employees and
Oh,
his wife. and and
okay.
and even though sometimes I think that saying that your workplace is family is sort of frowned upon, and I agree in many aspects because I never want to take advantage of people, I think
Yeah.
that people need to know that they can rely on a community. And if
Yeah.
your place of work can be somewhere that you have people that you want to spend time with after hours or call, not when you have a professional problem only, but when you have a personal problem, that we're doing the right thing for our employees.
You spend so many hours in the workplace, more than you do at home. So, if
Yeah.
your workplace can feel like home and have people who support you like family, I think that's a really nice thing. Now, what strategies have helped you scale your business while staying true to your mission?
Well, so one thing we did was we implemented a 90-day period where if we hire someone and we have realized that they're not really a good fit for whatever reason, we just go ahead and make the decision to separate from them immediately. That's been
Right.
helpful. We have um, really strong processes that help us do our best work. So, as a behavior change agency, a lot of what we do is not only founded in numbers or return on investment, it's founded in helping people sort of understand why they need to make a change and then helping them create that change. And it's the same way for our employees. I feel like we have done a good job of setting up a framework that allows them to sort of control their own destiny. And
Mm,
our clients, the same thing. The more they put in, the more that they get out with us.
I love it. Now, you aim to inspire women who don't believe in themselves. What advice would you give to women who are struggling with self doubt and imposter syndrome?
Gosh, it's something that I struggle with. And I know that's crazy to say, but I think that we all do. First of all, I would say find a good support system because your friends and your mentors and your family, they're not pumping you up just because they love you. They're pumping you up because they believe in you. I think number two is kind of writing down attributes that make you unique and special, and things, sort of like guidelines for your go or no go, things that you absolutely will do and won't do, and you'll be surprised by all the things you can accomplish, because not everyone can do what you can do, and
Mhm.
also creating boundaries for yourself so that you're always sort of seeking to do better for yourself.
I like that. Sometimes you do have to take an audit of who you are and actually put it down on paper, right? I've
Mhm.
always done this thing where if I start feeling like, oh, should I really be doing this? Am I the right person for it? And that imposter syndrome steps in. I write down what I have achieved. Because you forget sometimes that you're in the middle of the dream you had 20, 30 years ago. I
Right.
feel that right now, living in New Zealand, I'm a grandmother, I'm rebuilding my life here with my kids. And I think I left Africa with a suitcase, three little kids, $500. I had a 2-year-old on my back, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and I moved to the other side of the world with nothing. Wow. I actually get blown away and I don't even know how I did it, right?
Me either. You were so impressive.
We need to take stock of how far we've come because sometimes we forget that you have
Yeah,
actually.
for me personally, that's what I just can't believe, honestly, is that, I
Mm,
struggled truly to know if we were going to have a shelter over our heads, from night to night, or that the utilities wouldn't be turned off. And
yeah,
I am absolutely 100% living my dream. I will say the
yeah,
other thing is like gratitude is really important to me.
yeah,
I feel like it's important to always say, like, even out loud, like, I love my this, I love my job, I love my home, I love my dog, I love my husband, to yourself, because I think it's so important for you to just go, wow, like, I'm living my dream life.
I love it. Now, let's talk a little bit about resilience. How important is resilience in business and life? And how do you personally cultivate it?
So I have found in recent years that people seem to be a little bit less resilient. And I do believe that that is sort of one of the effects of the pandemic, is that
Mhm.
we saw how fragile our ecosystem is, and and it broke us down a little bit.
Yes.
I think in business particularly, when we realize that we aren't the only person, and that often when things happen to us or someone expresses something to us, it's not even about us, it's about something else. And so I think resilience is about sort of not only acknowledging that, but but deciding what you're going to do for you,
Yeah.
regardless of your situation or the other person involved. I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
So the second part of the question was, you know, um, how do you personally cultivate resilience?
So it's interesting because I feel like rest is important to resilience. I think sometimes people, especially in our day and age, we go too hard. We feel like we owe everyone else something. And
Yeah.
often we're more committed to making other people happy than ourselves. And I think
Yes.
that cultivating resilience is saying, what's really important to me? And what do I need to do to achieve that? And
Right.
often people and situations, whether it's volunteer work or friendships, they are understanding in ways that we don't even realize they can be when we prioritize ourselves.
I love that. Now, let's talk about women in business and leadership. What do you think are the biggest barriers for women in leadership today, and how can we break them?
I feel, even though I'm not a mom, I feel that one of them is that it seems that in 2025, the clock is 24 hours at work, and it shouldn't be. And
Mm,
I feel that it's hard for moms, especially, and fathers too, but moms because maybe they bear more guilt in the situation, to
mm,
sort of be present all the time for everyone.
yeah,
I want, from a reframing standpoint, for more people to understand that humans are capable of more than you think.
yeah,
And I feel like clarity and open communication can tell you so much about where a person is and what they need. And
yeah,
women are not only very capable of leading, but probably because of empathy and the ability to multitask, are even more capable than anyone gives them credit for.
it is so true. Now, what does your organization do with regards to its social responsibility, impact in the community? How are you giving back?
So, part of what we do as an organization is seek out businesses and organizations that are creating good in the world. So, our biggest clients work in public health or public safety. We
Okay.
also not only donate to the community, but we do a lot of work gratis for organizations and
Mm,
allow or even pay our people to be on boards. So if you're serving on a board, it counts towards your time at the office. um, from a corporate responsibility standpoint, I don't think that the world gets better if people who have means to do so aren't providing ways for people who don't have means to be connected to the community. And
mm,
my husband and I, but certainly the leadership team and all of our directors, are very committed to showing up both at work but outside of work in the community, and doing what we can in various ways to be a part of helping people.
that's awesome. I'm going to end our interview with two interesting questions, which are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I am going to teleport you back, and we are going to go and meet that young woman who ventured into the world of business, came from a really disadvantaged background, was struggling, and just didn't know how things would work out. Just in case there's a young woman who's in that situation right now, if you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
Well, first of all, you are capable of way more than you can even imagine that you are. Two, you are a light. And the more that you lean into the capabilities that are unique to you, the happier not only will you be, but everyone around you will be. And three, don't take things so personally. Often in life, the people that surround us are dealing with things that we never know because we try to hide them. And try to be compassionate and open minded and assume positive intent, because often I think misunderstandings come from ego and thinking that it's personal when it's not.
Absolutely fantastic. Last question is futuristic, and I'm going to teleport you into the future. And we're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. She's sitting in her rocking chair. Maybe she's on a dance floor. With science and technology, you'll probably live until you're 120. But if we could go into the future to meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
I hope that you are still living every day of your life with fervor and excitement and passion, and that you are doing everything you can to make people feel good about themselves and that they can achieve anything that they want to.
That is absolutely awesome. I love asking that question because a lot of women don't even realize that the wise woman is already in them, that she is that quiet voice that tells you go left, go right, say yes, say no. And we are always looking outside of ourselves for the answers, but the answers are within. So I have a little game that I like to share that I play with my future self when I'm working on a project, when I'm aiming to do something and I'm lost, I don't know what to do next. I go to sleep with a very simple question in my head. And the question is, what is the next step? And I just sleep on that. And then I will wake up the next morning. I'm in the shower and I have those light bulb moments and I know exactly what I need to do to execute. Or I talk about what I'm working on with everybody I meet. And I just say, oh, I'm working on this project. This is where I'm stuck. And by the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year, it's like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle where each person contributes to helping me put this little jigsaw puzzle together. So playing with the energy of who you are becoming, it really excites me because we've got the answers. We are never given a desire or a calling or that urge to do something unless you were wired with everything you need to make it come to life. So thank you for listening to Your Wise Woman and being here with us, sharing your inspiration with our community.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. I could not agree more with you. I do think that we're very similar.
We are. I am excited to have found you. And I'm
Same.
pretty sure this is the beginning of a long-term relationship that we have
I
just
hope
forged.
so.
I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again for the interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.